Walter Elias Disney was born on December 5, 1901, in Chicago, Illinois. When he was 4, the family moved to a small farm in Missouri. It was here that Walt received his first encouragement to pursue his interest in drawing. The family stayed in Missouri until Walt was 9 years old, when they relocated to Kansas City. Walt's father took on a paper route to support the family, and Walt helped him with the deliveries for the next 6 years. At age 16, Walt moved with his family back to Chicago, where he dropped out of high school at just 16 years old. He had been working as a cartoonist for the school paper and taking night classes at the Chicago Academy of Fine Arts. At that time, the United States was fighting in World War I, and Walt joined the Red Cross Ambulance Corps by forging his birth certificate to meet the age requirement. Walt spent 1918 through 1919 in France, driving Red Cross officials and other tasks until he was discharged and returned to the United States. After finishing with the Red Cross, Walt moved back to Kansas City with the goal of becoming a newspaper cartoonist. The paper hired him, but to create ads for magazines and movie theaters. Disney wanted to pursue a career in animation, however, and opened a film studio called Laugh-O-Gram in 1922. However, this ended due to financial struggles in 1923. Walt, however, was not dissuaded from his goal. He packed up and moved to Hollywood that same year to open Disney Brothers Studio with his older brother Roy. The studio focused on short, animated cartoons at first. By 1927, they were focused on a series based on Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, a character created by Walt. However, in 1928, Walt was issued a major blow when the rights to Oswald were questioned and eventually taken away from the Disney Brothers. Not deterred, Walt came back with a new character called Mortimer Mouse, later renamed Mickey. In his official debut in 1928, Mickey Mouse was featured in the short film Steamboat Willie. This was the first cartoon to ever utilize synchronized sound effects. Mickey was a huge hit with kids, and soon there was a following of clubs, merchandise, and comic strips. It wasn't until 1929 that Mickey spoke for the first time. His first words were, "Hot dog, hot dog." Walt wasn't happy with the initial voice, however, and voiced the character himself until 1947, when he was too busy to handle the additional work to running the studio. World War I was the start of Walt's working life. By the time World War II broke out, Walt had an animation studio at his disposal to assist with the war effort. In 1942, Disney produced an animated short called The New Spirit, with the goal of encouraging people to pay their taxes to support the war effort. The film featured Donald Duck and was in thousands of movie theaters. The studio was also in charge of training films for the American military and created more than 1,000 insignia for the military units. During this time, Walt was reluctant to risk his career for politically driven messaging, but the studios eventually produced blatant propaganda works such as De Fuhrer's Face and Victory Through Air Power. Victory Through Air Power was turned into a live-action movie in 1943 of the same name and was viewed by both President Franklin Roosevelt and Winston Churchill. By 1953, Walt already had plans to create a small amusement park near his Burbank studio, but his ambitions grew and he hired a research firm to look at the possibility of building a full-fledged theme park in Southern California. After extensive looks at population growth, transportation, and other variables, the firm recommended a location that would eventually become the home to Disneyland, a 160-acre parcel. Construction began in 1954 and opened a year later on July 17th. As mentioned in Jurassic Park, when Disneyland opened, nothing went right. There was extensive overcapacity, rides broke, the park wasn't completely finished yet, and a gas leak forced Fantasyland to close that day. Ronald Reagan, when he was still an actor, was doing a television broadcast that went to almost 70 million Americans, but it was riddled with technical difficulties. Despite these glitches, however, the park was a huge success. And as a bonus fun fact, the original cost of a ticket was $1 for adults and 50 cents for children. In 1965, Disney unveiled plans to create another theme park called Disney World, which would also feature the experimental prototype Community of Tomorrow. otherwise known as Epcot. In 1966, doctors discovered that Walt Disney had lung cancer due to his lifetime smoking. He died 1 month later in December. He was 65 years old at the time. Rumors have persisted that Disney had himself cryogenically frozen with hopes that he could be brought back to life. Despite these stories, however, the real fate of Disney was that he was cremated and interred at the Forest Lawn Cemetery in Glendale, California. The first person cryogenically frozen in the U.S. wasn't until 1967. Surprisingly, despite his success in business and larger-than-life legend, he was a shy, self-deprecating man in private. There have been significant claims regarding his personal views, including on racism and anti-Semitism, which have all been refuted by people who knew him. In the years since his death, different theories have been presented, refuted, created, and spread. However, one thing has been true: his influence remains unquestionable. Thank you for joining me today on this little overview of Walt Disney. If you have other ideas for people you would like to cover, or a more in-depth look at any of the fun facts regarding Walt Disney, Disney World, or Disneyland, please let me know in the comments below.